Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. We are back at it. Across the table from me, sharing what to know around the world of sports in Metro Detroit. Fletcher Sharpe, how are you?
I'm all right. It's getting a little chilly, so can't really wear shorts everywhere as much as I'd like to, so I'm a little bummed out about that.
So what is your shorts line? What degree?
When it gets the snow outside, I'll only wear shorts to take out the garbage, and that's really it. Otherwise, that's, I got to put on pants.
So it's not about temperature, it's about precipitation.
Kinda. I mean, obviously, I still might wear shorts with, tights underneath them, but, that's not really wearing shorts. That's, the same as wearing pants. But, yeah, I won't go out bare-legged, and, maybe about 35 degrees when it's about to start, forming some ice. Then it's maybe not the best for my beat-up legs to do that, so.
See, I stopped wearing stuff like that when I slipped on the ice in shorts. I learned my lesson.
See, I don't. I just don't. I've slipped on the ice many times in shorts and been like, dang, that sucked, and then get right back up with all the snow and stuff on my legs and just brushed it back off and went outside an hour later because I'm a dumb guy, so.
Well, let's get into what's happening around town. I got to talk about this headline that I saw in MLive, and I wanted to bring it up to you because you're the guy I'm going to talk to about this. And I was just stunned. This is from MLive. As Lions join playoff chase, Rams' first round pick is now higher than their own. Now, the second part, the Rams' first round pick. Okay, factual, whatever. That is what it is. Playoff chase? What on earth? No.
All that really means to me, and all respect to MLive because I've written there in the past covering soccer, but that headline means to me, please click on this. We need the money. Please click on this article and please share it with all of your friends. Please click more than once because you can't believe what you're reading. That's it. Because there's no way, in their heart of hearts, they really can look at the rest of their schedule and be like, we're going to make the playoffs. There's no rational way they can say, I know we've lost most of our games this year, but hey, we've won 2 in a row.
One road win for Dan Campbell, and you'd think we won the Super Bowl around here.
One road win against a very good but very young quarterback who's shown that he's still a young quarterback, even though he made some amazing plays. He had a 67-yard touchdown run, untouched down the middle of the defense. But he also threw a really bad interception that got returned for a touchdown. So very young guy. But it's not like they beat, the Tom Brady Patriots at Foxborough in a snow blizzard. They beat Chicago, which is a rival still. Rivalry games still mean much, but they're not a great team. They have the same record as the Lions now. So, congrats on the win. I'm not going to take that away from you. But, the rest of the schedule is objectively a lot harder than the first half. So I don't really know where you're getting off on this. But, I mean, hey, I've been wrong in the past. Maybe I'll be wrong now. I doubt it very much so.
So where are you feeling on Dan Campbell still?
The same. I mean, I was going to say something really mean on Twitter, but I kept it to myself. But the way that he was congratulating the players after the game was over, it looked like he was like, thanks for not putting my butt in the fire for this one. Because I screwed up again. Thank you so much for just, he was hugging him, high-fiving him, like they had found his lost child. And he was like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, this guy clearly understands that he lost this game. The heat would turn up exponentially on him. Again, great for them, great for the people on the team. They played well offensively, defensively. They struggled, to put it mildly.
I didn't see a playoff team out there.
No, and they have to play the Bills and the Vikings next, back-to-back. 2 teams who played against each other and had one of the most iconic games in NFL history, in recent NFL history, and they got to play each other. And the Bills have, albeit one of the best quarterbacks in the league, even though I didn't think he'd be there, they have a really great receiving core. They have a really great defense. That's a problem. And the Vikings have Kirk Cousins, who somehow only has 1 loss this year. I don't really understand how that works. And they also have Justin Jefferson, who had one of the most insane catches I've seen in quite some time. And let's not forget, they also have your former tight end, who looked pretty good in purple. If you win one of these next games, then I'll talk about playoffs. You know what? They can go and play against a team that's objectively better than they are. They show that they had some grit. But I expect it to be like when you throw a log in a wood chipper and it comes out in pieces. That's literally what I expect to happen these next 2 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Staying with the Lions, this is something that's come up across the league. There's a lot of issues being talked about now with field turf. That's something that's been discussed for many years, but the president of the NFL Players Association is calling for an immediate ban of slit film turf, which is what the Lions have today as far as a playing surface. There are 6 stadiums that use it. MetLife with the Giants and Jets, New Orleans with the Superdome, Lucas Oil with the Colts, Paycor with the Bengals, and US Bank with the Vikings. This has been an issue for years. Like, I remember high schools debating whether or not that they should be putting in some sort of field turf. I did a little bit of research around this, Fletcher, and the last time Ford Field got new turf was 2019. It cost $750,000, and they are on a replacement schedule for somewhere between 2022 and 2024. Those are the facts on the table, but I don't have the experience of playing on said turf. And let's just talk about it in general now that we know some things.
You have those 6 places you named that have the turf. All of them either have issues with precipitation or they're in the northern colder part of the country. Like in the Midwest, you can't just have a grass field. That's just not going to fly, especially if you have an open stadium, because it gets cold and grass reacts poorly to water and ice and all of that. But also tough. You have a $1 billion stadium. Make it work. You can afford to make it work. Hearing that New Orleans has it is kind of surprising, but not really, especially considering that they can be a flood risk at times. They need to make sure that their field can withhold the humidity and everything else down there. But at the same time, you rebuilt it enough, you can put grass in there. You should be okay.
So you can put grass in one of those enclosed stadiums?
Yes.
Okay. Did not know that.
I mean, it's going to be heck to take care of because it's not getting all the proper nutrients. It's not getting everything because most of those are open, but you can afford to do that. You have the money. Your stadium can be retractable. You can afford to do that. Playing on that surface is not fun. I use them as an example only because they fixed this. When the Detroit City Fieldhouse opened up, they had a very similar playing surface. That was a turf. And within the first 3 to 4 weeks of playing, there was at least 10 to 12 ankle rolls. I witnessed 3 of them in 2 separate games where people would just not even contact and just take the ball, try to roll it one way or the other, and you just watch their foot go to an angle it's not supposed to, and then they're down the ground. And obviously that's way better. Ankle injuries are not great, but that's way better than some of the injuries that are happening in the NFL. There's some torn ACLs, blown out Achilles, and other things because the turf is not built for you to cut on. If you're doing a straight running where you're running down the field, no cuts, it's perfect for that because literally it's just to simulate grass. But if you have to cut back and forth, unlike grass and dirt, which if you cut the wrong way will typically give way, the turf doesn't. So when you cut and plant your foot, I won't describe it more because I know some people could be a little squeamish, but just imagine trying to bend a pencil and the pencil just decides, I'm just going to snap. That can be, the tendons in your knee or your ankle or whatever. So it's not safe for sports like that. I covered an event, the women's national team game back in 2012, where they were supposed to play against Australia, ended up playing against Haiti instead. And coming off the field, I remember hearing Hope Solo, Alex Morgan, and someone else, her name escapes me, were yeah, this field is terrible. They're playing at Ford Field, this turf is terrible. Going down in it hurts. It's hard to make saves because the ground is hard. Cutting is hard. Hitting the ball is hard because the ball is going to bounce as if it's coming off concrete. And while the turf is not concrete, it essentially could be concrete. It's a long time coming. Other sports have had this issue, and I'm kind of surprised it's taken so long to see the NFL say, you know what, us too. You don't really want to see stuff happen with a rash of injuries trying to fix it then, because at that point it's kind of too late. But the fact that they're doing it before more injuries can occur is a good thing.
So from your experience, it hurts. When I've walked on these kinds of turfs before, and I have not played sports on them, but when I've walked in those fields, it doesn't feel like there's much underneath there.
No, there really isn't. It affects the way you play. It makes you play a bit more gingerly. You can play more aggressively, obviously, but you run the risk of making a very direct cut. That could be your knee going out, could be your ankle going out. So maybe you round off your cut, maybe you kind of stop and start a bit to kind of help. And, it kind of hurts the way you play to some degree. I've never had an injury really for anything with turf, but I have had moments where I've gone to cut back and forth and I felt myself kind of give way. I've played on Ford Field before. I played a game my senior year against Oxford High School and we got destroyed. But there are a few times where I'd get the ball on a swing pass trying to cut up the field and just make a few steps and I'm yeah, this does not feel great. I'm going to go out of bounds. I don't want to try to cut up the field and fall like an idiot, but also I don't want to try to slip and get leveled by one of these big corn-fed Oxford football players. So like, let me just get out of bounds while I'm busy slipping on my feet. It's not the worst. They could be playing on the old AstroTurf that the Silverdome had, which is literally just carpet on top of concrete. Is terrible.
That sounds awful.
It's terrible. It hurts. You fall on it hard. You will knock yourself out, but it's not great. It's not grass. But if you can afford to have a stadium like Ford Field, the way that it is, you can afford to put something in there that's going to make sure people don't, have their legs die on you.
I was surprised at how cheap the field was. Honestly, like I thought it would be more money, like the one that they put in.
I mean, most issues that can be fixed in a stadium aren't that expensive. Like, of course, to the common man, like we could not afford them. But to the people who have like billions of dollars, they could fix it. It's just like, do I really want to deal with the headache of having, to do this? And for the most part, the answer is no.
Let's talk basketball. I want to talk about Eastern Michigan. We talked about Emoni Bates earlier. And it looks like he's really leaning into finding some success. Although Eastern Michigan lost to Michigan 88-83 at Little Caesars Arena, Bates showed up real well.
He's going to need to if he's really going to try to show the pro scouts that what happened in Memphis was a fluke, because he went to a really star-stacked team, including current Piston Jalen Duren, and like totally just disappeared. He got there and he was supposed to be the guy with a bunch of other people who are used to being the guy. And he was supposed to be like the one to lead them all. And he had Anthony Hardaway, Penny Hardaway leading him to kind of get him to like be more pro ready. And he struggled mightily. His shooting percentages were terrible. I don't know if it was because he was away from home for the first time in quite some time or whatever it was. He was out of the coddled kind of feeling of his own pocket, because I know he had his own kind of entourage with him. But he got to Eastern, played against Michigan. It was a pretty hard-fought game, obviously. Some people might even say the refs kind of made sure Michigan got the win. We won't say that because I'm not that type of person. But he put up 30 against a pretty good team. 30 with no assists, which is not good, but 30 and 5 rebounds on 64% shooting. So, like, he showed that he can show out. If he wants to, like, improve his draft stock and still be relevant in that regard, he's going to have to play like this for most of the season. And he's going to have to do this just to make sure Eastern Michigan stays relevant. They have some other players like Noah Farrakhan who can provide some support out there with him. But like, he's going to have to show like, I can still be the man, but I can also, run a team, because whoever's drafting him, when they're going to draft him, he's probably going to go decently high still. They're going to need him to go there and like show that he can be the guy, but also show that he can be a team player when needed.
This season, is Eastern Michigan now a team to watch? Like, do we need to put them on the radar?
I mean, right now they're 1-1. Let's check back in a month with them, because if they're doing well enough to where they might get an at-large bid, sure. But I don't want to necessarily say that they're a team to watch now, because we thought Memphis would be a team to watch last year, and they became a team to watch when Emoni Bates sat. Like, they were bad, and then all of a sudden he got a mysterious back injury, quote unquote, and they went on like a 9-game winning streak. Let's wait to make sure that he's, fully matured from this offseason and last year.
Let's talk Titans for a minute. We're still on the Antoine Davis watch.
Yeah, as I said last show, he is on pace to break the record for most games in a row consecutively, scoring in double figures. He had to do 5 or 6 this season. So far, he's got 2. He scored 28 his first game, 15 his second game against Boston College. He's not putting up great shooting splits. He's attempted 23 three-pointers this season. He's made about 6, 7. Those are not great numbers for someone who's a three-point shooter. He's more of a volume scorer, but he's still doing the things he needs to do, averaging about the same number of assists as the turnovers, which is a little bit better than his normal average. He's going to need some help. He's got some in Stone, who put some buckets in against Boston College. I think this is going to be the main thing to be watching for Detroit Mercy fans, unless like someone else steps up to help him more frequently. He can't be the one out there scoring 25, 30 points and they still lose by 10. Like, that's not going to get it done. Albeit they fought hard against Boston College. It was only a 4-point loss, which is honestly better than what I expected it to be. You can't have that happen all season. If that's going to be the case, it's going to be him breaking records, but them not getting anywhere close to the NCAA tournament.
So both teams, if they can develop some things, there's definitely like a chance that they're going to make some splash.
Definitely. It's just honestly, the one thing about basketball that I love is it's really a player-driven sport. Really, like if you have 1 star and 4, not great players, your team can still be a decent team. But when you play against teams that have like 4 or 5 quality players, maybe not as good as your 1 star, but quality players better than the rest of them, you're stuck. It's like when the Lakers had Kobe and he was like great, but the rest of the team had like Smush Parker and Kwame Brown, and they were terrible. Kobe would score 40 points a game, but they'd lose by 10 because no one else could do anything. Heck, the game where he scored 81 points, like the next closest person had like 11. I get it because he's shooting the ball so much frequently, but like if he scores 81, someone at least has to have like, double-digit assists, and that didn't even happen. That lets you know, like, pretty much I get the ball, get out of my way. And I'm not saying Emoni Bates or Antoine Davis is on that level of Kobe Bryant. I'm not saying that their teammates are as bad as Kobe's were for that region. But at the same time, like, they need help. They're going to play against a team that's going to isolate them. Eventually, going to get to a team where it's like, you know what? That's their star player. He's not doing anything.
Right. They have dominant enough of a defense where they can box him out.
Right. It's like, you know what? We'll put 2 people on him. Now who's going to score? Someone's going to have a career game. Someone's going to have a career average for the season. It doesn't need to be like 30, 40 points, but like they might need to go from maybe 9 points to 15.
I think you need to get into the double digits with that to get people to think about, okay, I got to spread things out a bit.
Like if it's Eastern Michigan, if Noah Farrakhan steps up and starts, dropping buckets, dishing the ball around, Emoni Bates will get less coverage, which means now he's free late in game to say, I'm taking over. Whereas, with Detroit Mercy, if one of their transfer students, if Stone can step up and help, Antoine Davis can then go on to score 30 points a game because he'll be left open on the wing. But if he has someone else has the ball at their hands and Antoine Davis is marked with 2 people, and you're like, well, how do I get in the ball? How do I get in the ball? That's a problem.
It's a problem, but also an opportunity. Like on 2 teams here, career opportunities for players to get known.
Yeah, and if you're a player who is near the end of your college eligibility, you think you have a chance to play professionally, this is a chance to show people that, yeah, I might be known as a defensive lockdown person or a 3-point specialist or an assister, but I can do other things as well. They're giving me a chance to show that. I will show that. You don't realize the reason why these players are in college playing basketball or playing whatever sport they're playing. In high school, they were the best player at their team or one of the top 3 people on their team. So they all have the ability to take over games if need be. They just need a chance to show it. This is a chance for them to show high school version of me. Back when I was scoring 30 points in high school, taking whatever shots I need to take, now your star is double teamed. Show them why you have your scholarship here.
Yeah. Let's talk a little Detroit City FC offseason. There's some developments and some USL Championship news to talk about too. We'll keep it brief, but I do want to get through it. First off, there are 3 players that we knew weren't coming back. There was a roster update since we last talked. Joe Rice, the goalkeeper, he made no appearances. He's gone. Billy Forbes, forward, he's gone. Forbes was put on loan to a team in the Canadian Premier League. And Carl Ouimet is done. In fact, I've heard some things that Carl might actually be done like for good when it comes to soccer. He may not go back with Indy. He might be done. So those 3 players we kind of expected. And then Francis Atuahene, he's done.
All 4 of these players I expected to not be back. Francis originally was getting a lot of playing time. He was the first sub off the bench. He even got a few starts, I know, notably against Pittsburgh when Hopino was unavailable. But when the team officially signed Yazid Matthews, who'd been around for most of the year, just unable to play through contract/visa issues, once Yazid got his chance to like get in there, Francis's playing time like drastically dropped. Like he would come in like the 80th minute. He'd come in to spell people. He's there to just run full speed at you. And while Francis is good at that, I feel like that's not what he signed up for. So I get that. Billy Forbes, they loaned him out midway through the season when they were hurting for players. They were hurting for people up top, and they're like, hey, let's send you to Valor FC. Like we don't need you anymore, which is like a very big sign of like, yeah, this is not work. When they send a player on loan who they brought in and made a fanfare for, it lets you know that this is not working out. You need to go somewhere else. Thank you, but no thank you. He was signed to a 1-year deal. I didn't see him coming back at all, especially now that they've brought in some players who might take his number 7 jersey. I feel like, adios. And the other 2 players you mentioned, Joe Rice and Carl Ouimet, were both players on loan. They had to go back. It's not something where it's like someone can come on loan for more than a year unless you work on a deal like that. It's you come over here, you do your job, thank you. Joe Rice was signed literally as an emergency because we only had 1 keeper going to Colorado. So he was signed literally so that we'd have a second keeper to back up our backup. And Carl Ouimet was signed after Devin Mumensa got hurt. And then after Stephen Carroll got hurt, he was there to kind of fill in and help solidify some things. And if he is done, like I've seen his family at games, he's got a lovely, beautiful family. He's accomplished a lot in his career. And honestly, I think if he were to hang up his boots, he could hang them up with his head held high.
Fair. I think there are some fans that are kind of worried about who's going to come back and all that. I think we've still got some time to play out. I know November 30th is the options deadline around things, but a lot of these players, I think, are on 1-year contracts, right? So that's not as applicable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there is some change between coming from NISA to USL Championship. Some of the contracts were signed during NISA that had to be reconfigured because, as some people know, the contracts in NISA weren't all the way above board, especially if you're an international player. We're kind of, let's, write down your name here, but we can't pay you, so we'll make you do other things to give you money type of thing.
Right, like coaching and stuff like that.
It's like, hey, maybe we can't pay to be a player, but you can coach. You can referee at the field house, and you can coach some teams, and we can pay you there. That's where we get your money, which is a great way to immerse people into your community, but also, like, don't make them sign and play for free because that's not what's up. So I think there's some configuration there. These 4 players are just the first 4 people who are being announced. Maybe some more players might not come back. Maybe some more players are getting re-signed. I know when they initially signed a lot of the players at the beginning of the season, they were all 1-year deals just to get them on the roster officially. And I'm assuming most deals are 1-year deals unless explicitly mentioned. Like I know when they signed Cy Goddard and Richard Foster, they made sure to mention multi-year deal. When they got Uzid, I'm pretty sure they mentioned multi-year deal. I feel like unless it's mentioned, it's a 1-year deal, which is kind of a USL championship type of thing. It helps you understand that you're basically almost always playing for your spot. Even if your team is, lost 25 times, you're almost always playing for your spot. So you got to keep playing because you never know what's going to happen.
Do you have any advice for fans in this uncertain time?
Don't get attached. Like, I know it's hard to say, especially those who are like, I love my keeper, I love my midfielder, but like, you might be like, hey, example, hey, I love Maxi Rodriguez. He's my guy. He's my favorite player. And then San Antonio might be like, hey, do you want to come back home?
And they just won the title. I can't see how he would ever say no to that deal.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate to say this, I don't want to sound, defeatist, but they just won the title. They have a very set up team. They were semifinalists last year. They've been a very well run organization. They have the full community support behind them. Not that Detroit doesn't, but like they probably also have a bit more money, especially since winning the title. If it comes down to a 2-year deal for Detroit and a 2-year deal with San Antonio with a bit more money, he chooses one or the other. You can't really be mad at him about that. But like, don't get attached to players because you might think someone might be back and then they might not. Contract didn't fit. Demands didn't fit. Another team offered them something. Maybe they're homesick. They want to go back home. Declan Wynn is an example of that. Maybe he might want to go back to New Zealand. Who knows? So you just don't get attached because it's only going to bring more heartbreak in that regard.
Before I let you go, there were going to be a couple of expansion teams in our conference in the USL Championship. I followed along with the story of Queensborough FC, and then I also had heard about Pawtucket. Well, Pawtucket is now going to be Rhode Island FC in 2024. That was officially unveiled, but Queensborough, not a thing.
They came in with a big bang. They were pink and black, which is already just jarring together. David Villa, who used to play for New York City, who also played for Valencia, Barcelona, won a World Cup, won a Euro with Spain, one of the most decorated strikers in European history, if not world history, was taking over for them. I think he's going to be the coach or general manager. Then he was accused of improper touching when he was with New York City, and it got to him when he was at Queensborough. And they were like, yeah. He's like, oh, you know what? I didn't do any of that, but also let me just get out of this position with Queensborough real quick. And they kind of went silent. Then, some more things popped up. They're talking about they're going to build a stadium, but they're like, we need to take a few years to make sure we're ready. So we'll wait till 2023. We're not going to play this 1 year. There's an article that's out recently talking about a new soccer-specific stadium for NYCFC. And in the article, it also notes the grounds were supposed to be for Queensborough FC, but they noted that they are now defunct and will not be joining the USL Championship. That's their press release. They came in with a bang, went out with a whimper. And it's very unfortunate because they looked like they were going to be like formidable because they had all the quote-unquote world's borough behind them.
Well, and with losing the Red Bulls, USL, it's good to have a team in the New York market if you can.
I don't really read and subscribe to the whole, like, you need teams in big markets like LA and New York, but like, it's nice to have them. I mean, it's nice to go there, win against those teams and have those fans be really salty. But, it's not the worst. I mean, to fill in for them, instead of having Queensborough, there's a new team in Milwaukee coming up.
There you go. All right, Fletcher Sharpe, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to talk about sports and have, my opinion matter for something.
All right, friends, thank you so much for listening. Remember, if you've got feedback or ideas, dailydetroit@gmail.com. We have a busy and great for you on the podcast. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharpe.
Remember that you are somebody, and I'll see you around Detroit.